can't believe I am back in Detroit. I had rented a limousine.
So, where you headed there, sir?
This most annoying chauffeur. I told you to keep driving!
Sir, I need to know where I'm going.
I told you that is on a need-to-know basis. I will let you know when we reach the destination.
Yeah, but, well, it's like my wife tells me you gotta have a destination. That my father, yeah, my
I
father
decided
told
to
me
put
you
up
gotta
the
have a
divider.
destination. No.
I couldn't listen to his rambling. I had to think of the task at hand. I have to do this for him.
Detroit is an interesting city, especially for a French immigrant such as myself. Of course, French people have been here long before I moved here after the war. I should introduce myself. My name is Darren Decay. I am a private investigator.
For a moment, I thought they had torn it down. Then I saw it. Stop the car!
Sir,
I said stop the car!
What's going on? You know,
I had no time for his nonsense.
you're insane.
I stepped
you
out
crazy
of the
old
car
German guy.
and made my way towards the warehouse. I didn't mind the limo driving off. I was where I needed to be.
I was in my office admiring the pistol my father gave me when I set off to the States. He was worried about me, although I had many cases back in France that nearly killed me. I was reminiscing about my boyhood days when I heard a knock at the door. It was to be my first case in America. One moment! I put my pistol into the drawer. And address, my first client. Come in!
I struggled with the door. Weather and neglect had taken its toll on the warehouse, but I managed to enter. What I found was nothing.
She entered my office. She was a beautiful blonde with legs that didn't stop. She wore a red dress that teased the senses and a bright red lipstick that stole a man's focus. If I had seen her in the street, I would have propositioned her, but I was on the clock, so she clearly was here to proposition me.
I could use your services, Mr. Decay.
It's Decay.
Excuse me?
I should have been used to people getting my name wrong. It was happening all the time. Never mind. How can I help you?
I looked around the warehouse, but it seemed my journey was for naught. Until I saw a loose plank on a wall. It seemed out of place.
The woman looked around as if she were being watched.
I wasn't sure who to turn to. This is such a sensitive.
I have dealt with the sensitive cases before. You can't surprise me. The woman gave me a doubtful look, but shrugged.
All right.
She reached into her purse and pulled out a photograph.
This was stolen from me.
I took the photograph and studied it.
I moved the plank, revealing a hidden door. I remember you. I opened the door and stared down into darkness. Luckily, I had brought a flashlight, which I hoped would be enough. I hope there are no surprises. I mustered my courage and went down the stairs.
The photo was of an amulet shaped in the form of a wolf head. Its eyes were ruby. I've never seen anything like it. It seemed like a peculiar item. I needed more information. What is this?
That is the lupus intus. It is very important. We get it back.
This woman had done her research back in France. I had dealt with cases of a curious nature. Most of my jobs were looking for lost items or disloyal spouses, but I could get cases of the occult persuasion, so I had dealt with the undead and mystical objects. That part was something I did not advertise for obvious reasons.
When I made it to the bottom of those stairs, I was shocked by what I saw. There was a maze made up of various items. I shook my head. They have been busy since I left.
I made my way through the city, following the lead that the woman gave me. I went on the cover of night so that I would not be disturbed. I found the headquarters. It was a place called the Lobo's Lounge. I felt it was a bit of the nose, but I was not there to judge names.
I don't know how long I had been in that maze, but I was excited to find something. What is this?
I have found a nearby alley next to the club. I looked around to find a window that led into the wine cellar. That was my entrance. My entrance wasn't too bad. Ah! Oh! Oh! At least there were some sacks to break my fall. I sneaked my way into the main floor. I managed to find my way through the club without bumping into anything, nor being detected, which really surprised me. I made my way into the main office and rifled through the desk. It didn't take me long to find the amulet.
I had found the amulet. Have you been here this whole time?
I was making my way out of the club. I was very suspicious of how easy it was until the lights turned on, revealing 5 mobsters standing before me. Their leader glared at me.
I believe you have something that belongs to us.
I stared at that amulet for a long time. How long have you been here?
I got myself into a defensive position. I was not afraid of some mobsters. I had trained extensively at Savate, and I had my gun. Wait, I did not have my gun. Why didn't I have my gun? My thoughts were interrupted by their leader.
If you give it back now, we'll let you leave.
Did you steal it fair and square? The mob boss shook his head at me.
We didn't steal anything. It's ours.
I would expect you to say something like that.
I don't think you know who you're working for. I don't think you know who we are.
I know you are the brotherhood of the bite. The mob leader rolled his eyes at me.
You just know a name, genius. Do you know who we actually are? Hell, I bet you don't know what we actually are.
I glared at the mob leader curiously. I'll bite. Who and what are you then? The mob leader chuckled at me as he extended his hand.
No, you don't. Now.
The mob leader gestured towards me.
Hand over the amulet.
I clutched the amulet tighter and glared at the mob leader. You can try to take it from me. The mob leader dropped his hand and sighed.
I asked for it.
The mobster started contorting in pain. Which confused me. What is... Oh! To my horror, the men started to change. Fur-covered muscles tore the clothing. Their mouths grew into toothy more. Their hands became common claws. They had become I see now. I was in over my head.
I continued to stare at the amulet. and I threw it over my shoulder. You are not my quarry. I continued my trek through the maze.
My choices were to give up the amulet or fight the werewolves. I chose a third option. I jumped through the window. Luckily, I spent my stint in the circus, so I knew how to break my fall as I hit the ground. As soon as I got to my feet, I started running. I was not sure how long I ran, but I was feeling the burn. As I ran, I thought about this case. It was strange. Everything about this case felt off. When I got back to my office, I could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. I didn't remember saying yes to the case. I didn't remember bringing my father's gun. I didn't remember asking for payment. None of that was like me. I got to the door of my office and turned the knob. Then I stopped as a realization came to me. Oh my God. I remembered what happened. The woman suddenly stood up. I was confused. What are you? Before I could finish my sentence, she blew some red dust into my face. And I immediately felt my mind fog. I had been ensorcelled. That bitch! I turned to find two red-robed men facing me. One of them had a sack in their hands.
The Baroness would like a word.
I was too tired and baffled to fight back. All I could utter was, "The Baroness!" But that was all I could say before the sack went over my head and darkness took me.
After wandering through the maze for I do not know how long, but eventually I found what I was looking for. There you are!
I awoke in darkness. I didn't know where I was until the sack was taken off. And although the room was filled by candles, it was enough to hurt my eyes. I tried to get up, but I found myself tied to the table. What is...
Guten Nacht, Herr Decay.
I looked up to see the woman walking towards me. She was wearing a flowing dress of red. I growled at her. "It's Decay, you bitch!" The crazy woman growled back at me.
You will refer to me as the Red Baroness,
She proceeded to do a Nazi salute.
leader of Herren des Dunklen Reiches.
I heard several people echo her words.
Herren des Dunklen Reiches. Herren des Dunklen
I now
Reiches.
knew who had me captive. The Herren des Dunklen Reichs were the Third Reich's magic division. I had faced off with them during the war. You can't be here. Your order was eliminated in the war.
That is what we wanted you to think. Our mission extends beyond the fatherland.
What does your mission have to do with me? She gave me a sly smile.
We wanted the amulet and to get our revenge for your meddling in our plans. I figured we could kill two birds with one stone. Speaking of killing birds...
She turned her attention to a red-robed figure.
Lister!
The red-robed figure took off his hood to reveal a young man with short blonde hair and blue eyes. He looked as if he came out of the Hitler Youth poster. The Red Baroness pointed to me.
Would you do the honors?
The young cultist nodded.
Of course, Baroness.
I was growing concerned. Honors? What honors? The young cultist pulled a large dagger from his robe. He made his way towards me.
You have outlived your usefulness, detective.
The young cultist walked over to me. I struggled against my bonds, but it did not help. The young cultist stood over me with a knife held above his head. I cried out, "No, don't!" The young cultist brought the dagger down.
There you are. I stared in sadness as Darren's perfectly preserved remains laid in the glass case we put him in. I am so sorry. I promise I will make this up to you.
It was an October day in 1890, in a little town called London. I was rising up from my coffin, ready for the fight of my life. It's time. I was to battle my arch-nemesis, Lord Tyrus. Like me, he was a vampire, but unlike me, he was evil. I was to meet my quarry in the woods outside of town. I met my enemy in the clearing.
I didn't think he would show up.
Funny, I was thought the same about you. He sneered at me.
Huh. I'm going to love destroying.
He got into a battle stance. I got into my own and smiled. I'm going to love watching you try. We were about to charge at each other when I heard something. Huh? I glared at Lord Tyrus knowingly. You were supposed to come alone. Lord Tyrus feigned innocence.
I did.
Lord Tyrus shrugged.
All right, maybe I brought a friend or two.
Two vampires jumped out of the bushes and charged at me with their fangs out. One vampire swung his clawed hand towards my head, but my superior reflexes allowed me to dodge the blow. I punched my fist into my attacker's chest and torn out his heart. I saw the look of terror on his face before his eyes rolled back into his head, and he fell to the ground, dead, before turning to dust, blowing away in the wind. The other vampire tackled me and slammed me to the ground, but luckily, I was agile enough to flip the vampire over my head.
Whoa!
The vampire went sailing through the air and getting impaled on a tree branch. The vampire died quickly and turned to ash. I turned my attention and rage towards Lord Tyrus. Did you at least come unarmed? Lord Tyrus unsheathed a sword and shrugged.
Oops. Slipped my mind.
He thrust his blade towards me, which I dodged the attack just barely. This annoyed my opponent.
Ah! I want you to stand still and die.
I dodged two more sword strokes. As I sneered at him, my deepest apologies. He was about to thrust his sword towards me again when they were disappointed as they heard the timer. Sorry, everyone. I need to go. Telling my story at a goth cafe was always fun. I know, but I have things to attend to, and I loved leaving them wanting more. I'll see you tomorrow for the conclusion to the story. As I would tell the crowd goodbye, I would pick out a special person to meet me after and have a conversation. I had met with a girl after my recent performance. We sat in her car.
What happened with you and Lord Tyrus?
I shook my head at her. You'll have to wait for the ending like everyone else. The girl feigned an innocent look as she dropped her shoulder strap to reveal some skin.
Are you sure I can't persuade you?
I smiled as I brushed her hair from her neck. We can work something out. I bared my fangs, bit into her neck, and drank deep. It was a good night. I was walking home after my feeding, feeling pretty good about myself. The girl was in such ecstasy from the feeding that she fell unconscious. Worked for me because I didn't have an ending yet. To be honest, the only real thing I tell people is that I'm a vampire. Everything else is spice. I was turned 2 years ago. Back then, I was just a normal human. I was out for a walk one night. I was always a night owl, and I never learned to drive, so I was minding my own business when something grabbed me. Whoa! All I remember are fangs hissing. What are you doing? I don't have any money. Leave me alone. Panic. Ah! No! Pain. Ah! And darkness. Oh. When I awoke, alone and feeling different, I continued my walk home with the worst headache of my life. Oh. I didn't notice the sun coming up until I felt the rays of the sun. And it wasn't the most pleasant tan I'd ever received. Ah! I ran into a nearby alley and dived into a pile of garbage bags. As the day ended, I awoke from my sleeping quarters and I wandered into the night. Now, a vampire, having no idea what to do with myself. After 2 years, I figured out how to vampire. Anyway, I was walking home that night. Huh? And I took out my phone and read my notification. Oh no! I was late. I ran home and changed into my work clothes. And I ran to work. I got to work late, much to my boss's chagrin.
You're late, Sam.
Sorry, Jim,
Save it. Just get to work.
I started stocking shelves. Yes, I was a stock boy. I worked the night shift for obvious reasons. Even as a vampire, I still had bills. Once my work night had ended, I dragged myself home. I walked into the basement where my coffin, the tanning bed I repurposed, I'd closed the lid and went to sleep. The day went quickly, at least it felt that way to me. I was in a tanning bed. I awoke and lifted the lid to my coffin and found 2 men standing over me. Who are you?
The master would like to see you.
The master? They grabbed for me.
No.
I fought them off as best I could. Hey, what are you doing? Stop! Normally, my vampire strength was enough to push off any would-be attackers. Get off me! But these guys were as strong, dare I say, stronger than me. Then I noticed something. My attackers had fangs. They were vampires too. Despite my struggling, let me go! Let me go! But it was in vain, as I was dragged outside and a sack went over my head. I felt the car move to an unknown destination. I tried to extend my senses in order to feel where we were going, but unfortunately, my vampirism did not help direction sense. Of course, I didn't have those senses to begin with. I really didn't know what I was going to accomplish, but whatever it was, I needed to do it soon. I felt the car stop. I felt myself being pushed through a hallway.
Keep moving.
The sack was taken off my head, and I found myself standing before a well-dressed man sitting on a throne. He smiled at me.
Greetings, Sam.
I was taken aback by how this elegant stranger knew me. I'm sorry, do we know each other? The elegant vampire shrugged.
You don't recognize me?
He sneered at me.
We've been fighting for centuries, haven't we?
I shook my head in disbelief. No, you can't be. Lord Tyrus is a figment of my imagination. He stood up.
You have a strong imagination since I'm standing here before you.
I tried to back away, but forgot about my vampire escorts behind me. They pushed me forward as the vampire lord walked towards me.
I have to give it to you, Sam. You are quite the storyteller.
Thank you, I think. He nodded.
The problem is you're a bit too good at it.
Oh?
You see, there's a reputation amongst vampires, and I think a few people are starting to believe your story's there.
Well, that's an easy fix. I can just tell them that they were just stories. Lord Tyrus nodded his head as if he was thinking about what I had said.
I don't think that would do. You see, stories can be too ambiguous.
Lord Tyrus raised his hands and snapped his fingers.
I think it needs to be believable.
I looked to either side of me to find the two vampires with wooden stakes in their hands coming towards me. I looked to Lord Tyrus pleadingly. Wait! I have a plan! Lord Tyrus raised his hand and my two vampire assailants stopped in their tracks. Lord Tyrus looked at me.
What's your plan?
I took in a deep breath, getting ready to speak, and ran. I heard Lord Tyrus yelling after me.
Don't stand there, you idiots! Get him!
I ran as fast as I could down the long hallway. As my brain managed to get over my initial panic, I came to two horrifying conclusions. One, I had no idea where I was. Two, I had no idea where I was going. I stopped to catch my breath, even though I don't breathe. Despite being undead, I was still suffering a stitch in my side. I looked back as I heard the other vampires coming after me. I looked around frantically. I found a door that read, roof access. Jackpot! I scrambled up the ladder and found my way up to the roof. I found myself looking at a sea of rooftops. I wasn't sure where to go until I heard people climbing up the ladder. So I picked a direction and started running. I ran across the rooftops. As I would occasionally look back to see my vampire pursuers running after me. Although my vampirism greatly increased my speed and agility, it was nothing compared to my pursuers. They were catching up. I thought I was a goner. I heard a gunshot. Hit one of my pursuers. It must have been Silver, because the vampire immediately turned to ash. What the? Someone was firing a sniper rifle. I just didn't know if they were aiming at me or not. Until...
Found the target.
Good, yeah.
Should I take him out?
Of course not. You're supposed to help him.
What? My name is Robert Emerero.
My name is Hawk.
My name is Tiger.
My name is Blowfish.
My name is Eagle.
My name is Armadillo.
And we are Mr. Quilt. It was in my
And
senior
we
year
are
of high school
Mr.
back in
Quilt.
74. The Vietnam
And
War
we
was still going
are
strong.
Mr. Quilt.
I had joined the Air Force during the Vietnam War. I wanted to fly helicopters and get as many of my fellow soldiers the hell out of there.
I spent my whole life studying the martial arts. I moved to the States and joined the military to do my part defending my new home. At least, that's what I thought.
I like blowing stuff up. I figured the military would appreciate my enthusiasm.
I always had good aim. I thought being a sniper would be where I fit in.
I love driving big old things, so I thought the Army Artillery Division would be heaven for me.
I was working on my helicopter when a courier came to see me.
Excuse me, are you Mr.
I was training in the gym. When the courier came in.
Excuse me, Mr.
I was on a testing field testing explosives. Yes! When the courier came.
Excuse me, Mister!
What?
I was at the firing range when the courier found me.
Excuse me, Mister.
I was working on a tank when the courier come in.
Excuse me, Mister.
Our names were redacted for safety. The courier gave us the following message.
Our names were redacted for safety.
Been selected to join an
Our names
international
were
child war
redacted
effort.
for safety.
Report
The
to
courier gave us the following
redacted
message.
at 0600 hours.
I showed up to a bunker outside of training camp.
I was surprised when I entered the bunker.
I had never seen these men in my life.
And I couldn't help but be suspicious.
We started talking among ourselves.
When our new commander entered.
Hello, boys.
Blair was a big burly bastard. Probably why he was made the commander of our little club.
Bear briefed us on what our mission would be.
My name is Bear. It's the only name you need to know me by. I'm going to be your daddy, your mommy, and your god. Is that understood?
We all agreed.
Yes, sir.
Meanwhile, I was starting my senior year of high school. It started normal enough. I fought through the halls with other students.
Yes, sir!
I took my tests. And I ate lunch. All the typical teenager things until the storm hit.
I flew the team, the stagehands, in on our first mission. I landed it outside of the enemy fortress.
I took my position in some bushes.
I loaded the tank's gun.
I planted explosives around the perimeter.
I perched in a tree and watched some guards walking around the perimeter.
So I sat.
And got ready.
To take out
any who would escape.
Attack! I shouted into my radio. Roger! I rolled out in my tank.
I saw soldiers pouring out of the camp. I took aim. Roger. I fired the first shot.
I heard Eagle's rifle shot, which was my signal. I charged towards a small group of soldiers. They saw me, but it was too late.
As I heard the gunshots, the tiger mauling his prey, I figured that was my signal to light up my cartridges. I had gotten far enough away to activate the charges.
I heard all the commotion. I took it as my signal to take off. Let's go! Once the attack was over, I flew the team out. And as I was doing so, I saw something in the wreckage of the camp we attacked that made me curious. It was an American flag.
I woke up and went downstairs to see Mom making some lunch. Hey, Mom. Mom took a moment from what she was doing to look up at me.
Hey, honey.
Can I have... Before I could finish, Mom had thrust a bag into my hands.
Lunch is ready.
She gave me a little glare.
You better be too, young man.
I am. I looked around. Where's Dad? Mom merely gave me a look. She didn't have to say it. Ugh. He's still not home? Mom shrugged.
Oh, sorry, hon.
Ugh. Did you guys get divorced and forget to tell me? Mom gave me a glare that pierced my soul.
Don't look at me like that, Robert.
He said he would help me with my biology homework.
What do you want me to tell you? His work is really important.
But Mom gave me another wicked glare.
Do you really have time to argue with me and make the bus?
I glared back at her, although she was less threatened by it, as I stormed out. Ugh.
I tried to ask Bear about our last mission, but the answer I got was
above your pay grade.
I told the others of my concern.
What?
An American flag?
That can't be.
We're attacking our own people?
I ran to the bus stop. Ugh. Please wait. Please wait.
I was asked to join Bear in a private room.
I heard you had a bit of a problem with the last mission.
Knew I was in trouble. I composed myself during the talk, although inside I was shaking to my core. Yes, I noticed that the camp we attacked had an American flag. I felt we were ordered to attack our own men. That can't be right. Can it? Bear gave me a stern look.
It seems we need to correct you.
I stared at Bear in confusion. What? Bear yelled over his shoulder.
Cobra!
Good evening, Mr. Hawk.
I don't know what it was, but this man seemed familiar, although I couldn't remember seeing this man before in my life. Hello?
Let our session begin.
Session?
I got to the bus stop in time. In time to watch the bus drive off. Oh, come on!
After my meeting with Cobra, I couldn't remember what my complaint was going to be. I just knew we had a new mission.
I ran all the way to school.
I gave the team a ride in my tank.
I heard the bell in the distance. Damn. I was going to be late. Little did I know that that would be the least of my problems.
We had been sent on a mission to investigate a camp that was talking to a voodoo priest.
I ran through the empty halls. No.
We made our way as far as we could, much to Armadillo's chagrin. Bear got arrested away on foot.
I ran into class, where everyone was glaring at me. Most of all, my teacher.
Glad you could join us, Mr. Emerero.
Sorry.
I felt naked without my tank. I had my trusty M16. Wasn't the same as a tank gun.
I understood how Armadillo felt. I hated not being in the air.
We made our way to a hut. I smiled as I found the perfect spot. I'm going to set up here.
I thought Eagle was insane to set up shop in this swamp. But as I listened for any potential date, all I heard was something that sent chills down my spine. Silence.
I was writing furiously, trying to make up for the time I lost on the test.
I had my rifle set up as the rest of the troop continued toward the shack. My attention was so focused on the shack. Too late. When I heard something behind me. What the? I flipped onto my back and looked up at to find walking corpses shambling towards me.
No!
They piled onto me. Then all went
I was scrambling to finish my test, and everyone heard the alarm. Huh?
We turned around. to see walking corpses tearing eagles apart. What the hell? I turned as I heard something to my side. Whoa. The monsters rushed me. That was the last thing I saw.
We had done storm drills.
Find cover!
That stuff went out the window when an actual storm hit.
I watched the corpses pile on Armadillo. Armadillo! I tried to run to his aid, but I felt a hand grab my shoulder. Huh? I turned around to see a walking corpse holding on to me, moaning in my face. The attack happened so fast. I only had time to scream. Ah!
We ran into the hallway.
The corpses kept coming. I fought them as long as I could. But eventually I succumbed.
We heard the tornado rage outside.
That was all that was left for them corpses, 18. I thought I had gotten far enough. But I was moving wrong as one of the corpses jumped out of nowhere and tackled me. More of these walking corpses came out of the bushes and piled on me, tearing into me. Before everything went dark, I pulled the pins from my grenades.
We made our way down the hallway, desperately trying to get away from the windows. We piled into the nearest bathrooms. I was about to enter when I heard, "Help!" I looked back to see one of my classmates, Mary, had fallen during the panic. She was near a wall of windows. I could see the tornado creeping closer. Like an idiot, I decided to be a hero. I ran over to Mary. "Hold on!" I tried to get her to her feet. "Come on, get up!" But she would just keep falling back to the floor. "I can't." I looked down to see that she had broken her ankle. Oh, damn. I turned around to see the tornado coming closer. I had seconds to make a decision and act. I grabbed Mary by her shirt and pants and slid her across the floor away from the window. I slid her out of the way. I wasn't so lucky, as the window exploded, sending me flying backwards into the wall and shards of glass into my body. I was racked with pain until the darkness took me. I woke up in a strange room on a metal slab.
I woke up in a
I
strange
stood
room
up.
on a metal slab.
My head was killing me. As I raised my hand to hold my head, I was horrified to find it wasn't my hand.
It was my hand. However, the left hand.
It was my left hand. I looked down at my torso, which also wasn't mine.
I looked at my torso that rested upon two mismatched legs.
And the left was mine.
The right leg was mine.
I couldn't find a part that belonged to me until I realized I was the brain. I wandered through this facility that looked as if it had been abandoned for years. I found a control room that looked in on the room I awoke from. What is this? I found an old, beat-up journal on the control panel. I started reading it. It belonged to my father.
Journal of Dr. Julio Emerero, December 7th, 1973. My project was approved. This was wonderful news. The grant alone would help my family for years to come. It took me years of convincing. I guess I could understand I doubted I would get too many volunteers, but once they saw a successful solo squad soldier in action, they would be high in demand. I just had to wait on volunteers. Journal of Dr. Julio Emerero, February 10th, 1974. It took some time, but in the meantime, I would put manuals together as practice. Eventually, they brought members of a squad known as the Stagehands. Well, what was left of them. Apparently, there was a lot of dissent about the war, so they would have this group stage attacks on their own people to keep them fighting. This is horrible, but I care more about my work and family. These men were highly skilled, and it would be a waste to not use them. Journal of Dr. Julio Emerero, April 14th, 1974. The storm hit my son's school. I left the facility, much to the protest of my fellows. My greatest fear was confirmed. My son had been the casualty of the storm. I will do everything in my power to make sure my son lives. Damn the rules. Journal of Dr. Julio Amarero, June 17th, 1983. I don't know what happened, but they are closing the facility down. There is something about an accident. Considering experiments going on around there, I'm guessing something got out. If you're reading this, Robert, know that I love you, and I regret not spending more time with you. Please forgive me.
Something had happened to my father. I don't know what, but it had to be whatever closed this facility down. I don't know how long I was asleep. I didn't know my next move. I didn't know my new body and the voices in my head. There was so much I had to figure out that I barely heard someone calling out.
Hello?
I followed the voice. I had to see who was still here.
I think somehow I made a friend. But someone was taking out the vampires following me. I hope he knew the infinite ammo code.
I kept firing to clear up my mark's pursuers. I hoped he got away soon. I was running out of ammo.
I hope they tidy up soon. I think I still have laundry to do.
I watched the last vampire turn to dust, and I stopped to catch my breath. I shot a thumbs up to whoever was helping me. Thank you! I looked everywhere. Wherever you are.
I lead the kid down an alley. This way! He followed me like he was a puppy.
So what is the name of my savior?
They call me Mr. Quilt. I could feel him looking me over, staring at my stitches.
I can see that. So where are we?
Almost there. Ugh. Oh god, this kid was going to be a talker.
I looked in my rear-view mirror and smiled. Finally, the two boys were heading towards my limousine.
Liu Chia drove us back to home base.
As I rode in the back of the limousine, I couldn't believe I was in a limousine. And I noticed our chauffeur was driving with his feet.
It took me some time to drive with my feet. It helped that I had modified the limousine for this. I couldn't use my hands due to the straitjacket. I'm guessing that needs an explanation. It was back in 1886. My father was a British lord who had an interest in the exotic. That's why he ordered my mother from Korea. I don't remember if it was called Korea at the time, but I digress. My father loved my mother until he grew bored. He found a new wife and kicked my mother out to the streets when she was pregnant with me. To make sure that she and I were fed, my mother would wash clothes for the rich, and by the world's oldest profession. It's how she made our meager living, until one night she didn't come home. I waited the whole night for her to come home, then 2 nights, then a week. I finally decided to go looking for my mother. I found her body. Much to my horror and sadness, it broke my heart that I couldn't bury the woman who loved and took care of me. I was merely 10 years of age at the time. Oh. I lived on the streets, which was hard. It was made harder by the other children making fun of me for being different. From that moment on, I decided that since life had taken so much from me, I would take everything that was kept from me. I don't remember the first thing I stole, but I remember the one thing that mattered. I was climbing the trellis of a mansion. I climbed through the window into a dark bedroom. I found a beautiful jewelry box on the nightstand. I stared at the woman who owned the jewelry box as she slept. I tiptoed carefully, as not to disturb her. Each one of my steps sounded like someone dropping a heavy weight, at least to me.
Who are you? And what are you doing?
I heard someone shout behind me.
Who are you? What are you doing?
Me and my fellow thief looked at the woman in shock. Oh! I don't remember how I and my fellow thief escaped the mansion, but I do remember running from the constables. The female thief and I managed to lose the constables. As I regained my breath, I decided to give her a tongue-lashing. "What were you doing? That was my score!" She gave me a look of indignation.
Your score? I had been casing that place for years.
Well, it took me a month, so I guess I'm the better thief. I went to walk away. You know what they say, sweetheart. You snooze, you lose. She reached out for me.
Wait.
I stopped and looked back at her. She hung her head in shame.
I don't care if you keep the jewels.
I gave her a puzzled look. Oh?
I just want the medallion.
Medallion?
It's ruby, with the head of a raven made of onyx.
I rifled through my newly acquired gains and found the medallion she described. This looks like the most expensive item out of the bunch. The girl looked away from me.
That's not why I want it.
I gave her a dubious look. Is that right?
My mother served that woman for years. She stole it from her. I was trying to get it back.
The story touched my heart for a moment. I dangled the medallion before her. She held out her hand expectantly. I smirked. "One question." She gave me a look of surprise. I guess she didn't expect a question.
Yes?
What was the old woman's name?
She
panicked. I put the medallion back in my pocket. Nice try. You almost had me. I started walking away again. I stopped again and smiled at her. How would you like to earn your keep?
How?
She looked at me in shock and confusion. The young thief, Elsie, wasn't just a great partner in crime. After a few years working with each other, I made her my life partner. One night, we had invited ourselves to a ball, and we danced the night away. Surprisingly, without being caught. As the party died down, me and my love found a corner to talk. "You look gorgeous, my darling."
It's because I have a handsome man as my accessory.
I stared at her. It's missing something, though. She seemed taken aback.
What else could I need?
My smile broadened. Close your eyes. She glared at me.
What?
I glared back at her. Just close your damn eyes. Elsie reluctantly complied and closed her eyes.
All right. Give it to me.
I put something around her neck. And once I was done, open your eyes. She opened her eyes and looked down in surprise.
Oh my God!
I had placed the medallion she sought after so long ago.
I don't know what to say.
I smiled and shrugged. You could be my wife. She embraced me and gave me the most passionate kiss. I took that as a yes. We committed more robberies. I don't know how long we spent in that cell. But it was long enough for us to start going mad. I paced the cell deep in thought. Elsie watched me in annoyance.
How are we getting out of here?
I'm thinking!
Maybe I could help.
Me and Elsie looked at each other in surprise. Huh? Me and Elsie peered around to the next cell, well, as best we could, to see our neighbor, a young a young Romani. Can't be using the G word these days. Man. He had a cocky smile on his face.
This is quite a predicament, no? What are you in for?
Burglary. What brings you here?
Loitering while being me.
I understand that. The Romani shrugged.
Anyway, my name is Sasha, and I might have a way out of here.
We were excited.
Really? How?
We heard footsteps.
Shh, the guard is coming. I'll tell you tonight.
I was so excited to escape that sleep sneaked up on me.
Hey, wake up.
I woke up in shock. What the? A finger pressed against my lips.
Shh. It's time.
I saw the Romani standing over me. How? He put his finger to my lips again.
I'll explain later. Let's go.
We made our way through a tunnel following Sasha. I looked around in surprise. How long did this take?
Now, leave me some secrets.
I was growing suspicious of our savior, but my excitement over our escape was stronger. I and my wife continued to follow our Romani friend. We reached the end of the tunnel.
We're almost there.
I and my wife were excited that freedom was so close until...
Damn!
We ran as fast as we could. But the constables and the hounds were catching up quickly. I thought we were sure as caught until a miracle, at least that's what I thought it was at the time, happened. As Sasha tripped, he fell to the ground. Hard. I and Elsie saw this as an opportunity to keep running. Sasha reached out and called for us.
Wait, where are you going?
I turned to look and wave at Sasha. Hi, thanks for your help. We continued to run as he shook his fist at us.
You bastards!
The constables had caught Sasha. Me and Elsie managed to escape, or so I thought. I heard of Sasha's grim fate later. He was hung shortly after his escape attempt. We spent a few days on the lam. We found ourselves in a village outside of London. We had found a home in an abandoned shack. We were safe, or so I thought. Elsie and I were sleeping. Deeply. So deeply that we didn't notice our guests.
Wakey, wakey.
I awoke to see several large Romani men standing over me.
Madame would like to speak to you.
Then they proceeded to beat on me. After the Romani thugs had made their acquaintance, they pushed me and Elsie towards the outskirts of the village.
Get going.
We were brought to a Romani wagon and forced into chairs before an elderly Romani woman. Her wrinkled face seemed to stare into our souls.
You two are quite the heavy sleepers.
I looked around in confusion and grogginess. What do you want? The madam sneered at me.
Revenge.
We were brought to a clearing in the woods and forced to the ground. The old Romani woman stood before us in different dress and various strange items in her hands. She glared at us, especially me, with hatred.
You left my grandson to die.
Are you going to kill us?
No, I would never give you that release.
Then what are you going to do with us?
The old Romani woman sneered at my wife.
Since you wanted to be free as birds, you will be free as birds.
Elsie and I awoke. Back in our home in the village.
Where are we?
I don't think we went anywhere. I don't remember the ritual the madam did, but I am forever aware of the results. At first, we thought we had gotten away with our crime. We went back to our routine. Until me and Elsie woke up in the strangest places. We would wake up a lot in chicken coops.
Huh?
Covered in feathers and gore. We eventually figured out our curse. At first, we would change at night. Into raven monstrosities. We thought it was a boon for a while. We would change into our bird monster forms. Terrorize a few people. Then, once we had changed back to human form, we would take whatever was left. This worked, for a while, until the curse changed. One night, we transformed, but we couldn't change back, not even during the day. We only discovered the new aspect of our curse as we were caught in a fishing net. We found that freedom was our trigger, so we got creative. Elsie tied her hands in front of her with a bit of bedsheet, while I went a little too extra by wearing a straitjacket. We continued our reign of terror. Then came the day that changed everything. We were terrorizing people as usual. We chased some villagers into an alley. Little did we know, this was a trap. Elsie was flying behind me. When a large net was dropped on her. I looked back in shock. As several people jumped on my wife. I was going to fly back and help her. The net was thrown over me, and several more people piled on me. We converted to our human forms. The villagers shouted at us as they threw garbage at us. One of the villagers pointed to...
Finish them off!
Myself into an assault.
I had never ridden in a limousine before. It was pretty exciting. Is this your first limo ride?
Ugh, no, for the 5th time.
Oh, sorry. I'm just excited.
This kid better be worth it. I looked up at the rearview mirror to see Liu Biaxion staring at us. He's probably thinking the same thing.
I was playing with my toys. When I heard the car pulling up. Lou is home. I stared out the window to see Lou and Mr. Quill coming in with some new guy. I couldn't wait to mess with him. I was born in Detroit, Michigan around 1912. I grew up a healthy child, which stopped when I reached the age of 11. But lucky for me, I had my sister, Tabitha, to take care of me. Tabitha would collect flowers for me. Here you go. They're wonderful. She would sing me songs. Ring around the rosy, pockets full of posy. She would tell me stories. And then she ran from the wolf. One of the greatest things she did for me was when she gave me my bear. She had saved her allowance to get it. It's wonderful, Tabitha. I love it. Are you all right? I nodded. I'm fine. I think I just need some rest. Tabitha looked at me with concern. Are you sure? I nodded again. Of course. I will see you in the morning. I love you. Tabitha smiled at me. I love you too. Tabitha left the room, and I rolled over to go to sleep. I was right about seeing my sister in the morning. Just not the way I was thinking. I woke up, standing, in a graveyard. At first, I was excited to be out of bed. I was so used to being confined to my room. Huh? I looked behind me to find my family surrounding a grave. What's going on? I saw a coffin being lowered into the ground. What's going on? I made my way through the crowd. Whose funeral? I looked across the way to see Tabitha crying. I waved to get her attention. Tabitha, what? I saw something that stopped the words in my throat. I saw her holding the teddy bear that she got for me. I remember going to sleep with it. If she has my bear... Later that night, I watched Tabitha lying in my bed and holding my teddy bear, crying. And I felt terrible that I couldn't interact with her. I couldn't hold her. I wish I could take away your pain, dear sister. To my surprise, Tabitha's head shot up and looked around. Theodora? Days passed. My sister learned to live without me. Which made me happy. And sad. In the meantime, I was learning to be a ghost. Passing through walls was easy enough. But interacting with objects was difficult. After manipulating and dropping several objects, eventually, I learned to manipulate the objects. Much to the horror of the help. Since I could manipulate objects, I soon learned to occupy them. I would enter toys mostly. I would enter my sister's dolls and move around inside them. It felt pretty, because they were made so well, but they felt too stiff for me to move around. I discovered a different problem with them. One day, Tabitha and her friends were running through the house. I tried to join them, without them noticing, of course, but when I got to the door, oof, it felt like I hit an invisible wall. Huh? For some reason, I couldn't leave when I was in an object. I tried exiting the doll, and tried flying out the door. But I ran into the invisible wall again. I floated around the halls, thinking about why I couldn't leave. I was able to attend my own funeral, but I could not leave our house for some reason. Then it came to me. I sneaked into Tabitha's room to find the teddy bear. I entered it. I sneaked through the house just to make sure I didn't scare anyone. I stared at the door for moments, feeling nervous. I stepped through the door and found I could leave. I was happy to be outside. It was nice to feel the cool air on me, or at least pretend I could. The years passed. I was with her when she found love. At least, she thought so. She had taken me on a constitutional in the city. She was about to walk in the door when she crashed into Paul.
Oof! Oh my, excuse me.
No, madam, the fault is mine.
The two got to know each other over the next few days. I started to get suspicious of Paul during a talk at the cafe. The two conversed as Paul would eye me suspiciously. Tabitha looked at Paul curiously.
What's so funny?
Paul pointed at me.
That teddy bear. It's so dusty.
Tabitha glared at him.
This is all I have left of my sister.
Paul was taken aback.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Paul smirked.
It's a beautiful bear.
Paul sipped his coffee. While still glaring at me, I knew he had plans for my sister and her bear. Time passed, as it always does, and much to my chagrin, they were wed. It wasn't long before the marital bliss would end. They would fight most nights.
Have you been drinking again?
Get off my back, woman. It's the only solace I have.
I would respect your drinking if you bought it with your own money.
I made sure to keep my eyes on Paul. Then the night came. Tabitha and Paul were sleeping. At least, Tabitha was sleeping as Paul slipped out of bed. I decided to follow him. Paul made his way through the town. He kept looking back.
Huh?
Probably because he felt someone was following him. I followed Paul into a local tavern. Paul sat with two shady characters. I managed to sneak under the table to listen in on their conversation.
We got your telegram.
When do you want us to take her out?
I was disgusted by what I heard. Paul put a finger to his lips as a sign to silence his friends. As much as I didn't want to, I continued to listen.
Don't announce it to the world.
Sorry.
We just like being up front.
Anyway, can you do it tomorrow night?
Sure, as long as the pay is guaranteed.
I had to get back home to protect my sister. The next day came. Paul had come up with some cockamamie story.
I found an opportunity, my love.
Did you hear something?
Tabitha and I saw Paul off to his opportunity. Tabitha waved to him.
Safe travels, my love.
Tabitha had no idea what was coming for her. But I did, and I was prepared. Night came. I watched as Paul's hired goons sneaked towards the house.
Shh! You'll wake the whole town, idiot!
Sorry.
Paul certainly didn't get his money's worth. I heard the goons pick a lock at the back door. The goons made their way through the house. I made sure to follow them. The two goons sneaked down the hallway, stopping to talk to each other.
All right, let's split up. I'll mess up the west end of the house, you mess up the east end.
Right.
The two of them went in separate directions. This was going to be too easy. I decided to follow the first goon to the west end of the house. I had learned a few tricks and planned on using them on this unfortunate soul. I jumped into a painting of my late Aunt Gertrude. As the goon passed the painting, he looked at it.
Huh?
To see Aunt Gertrude, me, glowering at him. The goon glowered back.
What are you looking at?
This was my opportunity.
An intruder.
The goon looked at Aunt Gertrude, me, in shock and terror.
What?
I stretched out of the painting, changing Aunt Gertrude's visage to have razor-sharp teeth and claws as I reached for the goon. He fell to the ground, closed his eyes, and whimpered like a baby. After a few moments, the goon opened his eyes to see that the painting of Aunt Gertrude was normal again. He shook his head before running off. That was one down. Time for the other. The other goon ran towards the other end of the house.
Ugh. What's going on?
I went into the room where my sister kept her old doll collection. I never liked them. They creeped me out in life. But I thought they were perfect for what needed to be done this night. As the other goon looked for his friend,
Buddy, where are you?
he found me instead. I'm here.
Huh?
The goon turned to face me. Well, the face of the doll I inhabited. I waved to him with my little doll hand. Hello. The goon kicked me, sending my doll form flying into a wall. The goon stared at me in horror as he tried to compose himself. The goon came closer to investigate the doll. When I felt he was close enough, I called reinforcements. With my ability to move objects, I had the other dolls attack. The dolls jumped and clung to the goon, who struggled to throw them off. The other goon ran out the door like his friend. Tabitha eventually came downstairs to investigate.
What's going on?
My sister was always a deep sleeper. Paul had returned from his business trip. Tabitha was excited to see him.
Paul!
I knew Paul didn't feel the same.
Tabitha!
I watched Paul as he came up with a new plan.
What do I do? What do I do?
He would glare at the teddy bear. Me.
What are you looking at?
A loser. I followed him. To my horror, he took a knife out of the knife holder.
If you want a job done, you have to do it yourself.
Paul stomped down the hallway towards my sister's room. I chased after him. My sister was getting dressed. When Paul came in and readied the knife, I had to stop him. Stop! He turned to look at me as I charged him in my teddy bear body.
What the?
I jumped on his face and fought with him. We tumbled down the stairs. Paul landed on top of me at the bottom of the stairs. He stared down at me with fury, raising the knife over his head.
I've always hated you, Bear.
He plunged the knife into my teddy bear form. And to my horror, the stab hurt me. It was terrible to find out that anything that happened to the bear could hurt me. If he destroyed the bear, he raised the knife over his head again.
I should have destroyed you when I had the chance.
I was ready to be destroyed. Until Tabitha cracked him over the head with a frying pan. Paul picked himself up groggily and tried to give my sister his most pathetic look.
My dearest?
Tabitha sneered at her soon-to-be ex-husband.
Don't, my dearest me.
She crashed the pan against his head again, knocking him unconscious. Tabitha looked towards me.
Theodora?
I waved meekly to her. Hello. Paul was taken to prison.
I swear, the bear is alive.
Sure it is, buddy. Sure it is.
The years flew by, and Tabitha met a new man. A much better man. And she had a few kids. The years passed. The children grew up and left the home.
Bye, Mom. Love you.
While Tabitha and her husband Stephen grew older. Stephen eventually passed away. When it came time for Tabitha, I was at her side. Tabitha was 70 at the time, I think. I sat at her bedside as she did with me when I was alive.
Theodora?
I'm here. She smiled.
It's nice to hear you.
I had kept pretty quiet over the years. I didn't want to put my sister's family on edge. Is there anything I can do?
Just stay with me.
So I did. I stayed with my sister for hours. We talked and reminisced until...
See a light. Do you see it, Theodora?
Yes. It's beautiful. I lied. I didn't see a light. But I'm sure I knew what was happening. You should go towards it.
I love you, Theodora.
I love you too. I watched my sister pass. There was a look of serene and calm on her face. I, in my teddy bear form, laid next to her. More time passed, and the house fell into disarray. I wandered through the halls in my teddy bear body. I thought that I would cross over after my sister passed, but I was still here. I was without purpose, until one day...
Hello?
I heard someone in the house. Huh. I made my way to where I heard the voice. I found an old man wandering around. He looked down at me with a smile.
Hello, little bear.
I was surprised that he wasn't afraid of me, considering I was a walking teddy bear. He knelt down so that he was eye level with me as much as he could. I was quite a small teddy bear.
Are you the security here?
I nodded the teddy bear's head. The old man smiled.
How would you like a job?